committee and that you are meeting tonight. I'm sorry to give you so little time to read the attached. I ask that in spite of the timing, that you bring this subject and a serious issue in our community. We have had several years of promises, but our city leaders are derelict in their duties with regard to the audit and assuring equity and justice for Black people in our city. We look to your committee to help us get this audit and the reducing outrageous levels of racial disparities on track. I appreciate your immediate attention to this. I can be reached by phone if you would like to discuss before tonight's meeting. And then it's electronically signed by a name typed out, Suzanne Hardy, co-chair of CASIUM Policing Subcommittee. And again, attached is a letter that was sent to Councilman Gregory on November 20th, 2021. As I said, I did share it with all of you as soon as I opened it earlier today and saw what it was. Now that, so that she would know, I'm not going to read that part again since I just read it to you all, and I hope you did. Did everyone receive it? Or maybe did anyone not receive it? Who did not receive my email earlier today that transmitted CASIUM's concerns, subject audit for racial bias of Charleston Police Department? Okay, so everyone received it, good. I did also send it, I did copy Steve Rumelin, Captain McFadden, Deputy Chief Walker, Deputy Chief Thompson, and Chief Reynolds to the email as well. And so hopefully during the updates, we do have racial bias audit mid-year report update on our agenda for tonight. So if you agree with consensus, we can discuss this further during that agenda item to decide how we wish to proceed with the email that we received. Okay, thumbs up from Hack. All right, gotcha. Thank you. So it looks like thumbs up from Doris, Emily, and you?
Yeah, cool.
Becca. Okay, all right. Looks good. Thank you very much. So we have consensus to discuss it further under the racial bias audit mid-year report. Thank you very much. I believe we do not have any other citizens participation items. Okay, so then we'll move to the next item, the welcome of new members. Since our last meeting, our October meeting, is there a question? Okay, since our October meeting, we have been able to get our high school students approved by City Council for their active participation on the council. And so we'd like to just let you say hello again. I know we got a chance to meet you previously, Mayu. And Becca, if you are able to turn your camera on, we'd appreciate that at this time. Welcome to CPAC. Thank you so much for your patience. It's been quite some time, but we are so thankful that you did not get bored with the wait and that you are still very much so interested in working with this council to make a difference for our community at large. Would you like to say anything at this time, either one of you?
Sure, I'll just say I'm really excited to be here. It's been really incredible to see such an interesting perspective on the community. It's really rare, I feel like, for high school students to get to experience something like this. So I'm really grateful that I've been able to, and it's been really impactful.
Thank you.
Yes, I completely agree. From some experiences that I've already done through this group, I am excited to see the continuation of what I can do this year.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. I want to also share that we are saying farewell to 4 members, 2 of which you already knew about. Well, 3 I think you already knew about, but just to say their names again: Chris Russo, Max Milliken, Kevin Smith, and Joe Lysett are no longer on our Citizens Police Advisory Council. We are in the process of updating the listing to make certain that it's current so that we could send it out to all of the council members. We have already added Moyu and Becca to our list. And thank you so very much, Steve Rumelin and Captain McFadden, for ensuring that we have a current list. I do wish to announce that Jack Hannigan, hopefully he is able to join us tonight, has been approved by City Council, and he is the District 11 representative. I think you may have seen his name on some of the email traffic. So when he's able to join us, please make sure you all make him feel very welcome. Additionally, there are 3 appointees that the mayor has left to select. And those appointees are, and one of which is already on with us, Mr. Ernest Bryan, Mr. Eduardo Curry, and Ms. Marisol Bailey. Now I see Ernest Bryan on. If you would like to, sir, you could say something to us at this time. I see Eduardo Curry is joining. Not certain if Marisol Bailey is on. But Mr. Bryan, if you'd like to turn your camera on and say hello in your own way, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I thought my camera was on and I can see it underneath your window. Is that any, do you see me now?
No, sir. Do you have a line through where it says start video?
Start video?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
If you click on start video.
It says cannot start video. I don't know.
Oh, something with your camera then. Okay, okay. Well, that's okay. Next time we'll get a chat. We see your face and still, but please go on and speak to us in your very own way. Thank you.
Well, I'm very interested in what's happening. I'm a former police officer. I don't know if you've received the information on my Vita, but retired New York City detective. I then went to New York City's, just a moment, I got to pull myself together here. New York City's Victims Services Agency. And I was a project director there for a short time. And then I became a private investigator. I've been in Charleston only 8 years, but I've been in Hilton Head for a total of almost 30 years. So I'm quite interested in the area. My wife's family is from North Charleston, so I know the area fairly well. I guess that's about it. I've spoken to the mayor on a few occasions regarding police and regarding other things in the area.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for sharing that information about yourself. We're looking forward to working with you. And again, very hopeful that City Council will be able to meet that agenda item in their meeting next week, which is the approval of your participation on this council with Eduardo Curry and Marisol Bailey. Eduardo Curry, are you able to unmute and start your camera and say your words in your very own way?
Well, good evening, everyone. I just want to tell everyone I am thankful to be here currently right now. I am driving in the car. I just picked up my youngest, Cora Jane, from daycare, so I'm not able to put my video on currently right now, but I am Eduardo Curry II, not to be confused with the counselor who's a lawyer. I do have a background in criminal justice, as well as a background in mental health counseling. I'm currently working with Charleston Providence Neighborhood, which is a nonprofit here locally that the city of Charleston currently funds. And I'm in elementary schools such as Shakur Elementary, Mary Ford Early Childhood Development Center, as well.
Thank you very
slash
much,
middle
Eduardo.
school. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Continue. I'm sorry.
As well as Sanders Clyde Elementary. So,
Didn't mean to cut you off. You went out. Your microphone went out.
I apologize.
That's okay.
But like I said, I'm happy to be here. I'm hoping that if I'm able to be on this panel or this committee, that we can work hard to help with some of the items that the ACLU had found in their investigation / audit of the city of Charleston, and as well as the
I think we lost the rest of what you were saying, Eduardo. But we did hear that you said that you're looking forward to working on this council, and we are looking forward to you being on the council as well. We're very excited about it. Thank you very much, and be safe driving. Is Marisol on? Marisol Bailey? Okay, doesn't look like she's on with us. So I just wanted you all to get a chance to at least hear their voices, to know that they are excited about this opportunity. We're looking forward to getting fully staffed with our council so that we can continue to dig in and do the work that's been cut out for us to do here for the city. Now, the next item on our agenda is subcommittee reports. And I need to apologize to all of you because I did not remind our subcommittee chairman to please get their reports in a more timely manner so that they could have been posted as well as sent out to all members prior to today. So please forgive me with that. And since I am stating that to you, I'm asking that our chairman for the subcommittees, please prepare yourselves to read just your meeting minutes or actions, the summation sheet that I've asked that you would please provide. If you would read that information out so that the council would be able to hear that info, and they'll be able to read the actual document that you sent once this meeting is over, if they didn't get a chance to read it prior to the start of tonight's meeting. So with that said, Councilman Tamburino, would you please take us through the Communication Subcommittee?
So thank you very much. And I sent my minutes out to you guys probably a couple of days ago. So we were able to welcome 2 new members to the subcommittee team. Sergeant Beth Wolfson is the new PIO for the department. So we got to meet her, and we got to meet Brianna Simmons, who's now the new social media coordinator for the police department. So we'll work closely with them because obviously we're the Communication Subcommittee and we have a lot of work to do with them. The highlights of our meeting, I would say we talked about some of we went over the dashboards again. So as you all know, the racial bias audit dashboard was communicated through all media channels and social media. So I know the public's starting to get a view of that. It was even referenced in the letter the councilperson Fielding sent us a bit earlier from a member of the public. So we know that it is, the racial bias audit dashboard's coming out. One of the questions that we did ask from the team is, now that we're seeing the various dashboards of, the crime statistics and the reports and things like that, are they going to take it to the next level and create a community dashboard for traffic incidents? And we were assured by the person in charge of data that yes, they are. That's a work in progress. So we should be seeing, obviously not in the next few days, but in time, it's on their agenda to make that. We did talk about some of the public reports and how, the timeliness of them coming out, whether there's, been forums for it. So, ironically, the Charleston People's Budget Coalition, that was brought up as something to bring to the CPAC to find out, really to ask y'all what, just say if what CPAC's role should be in this. So that was addressed at the subcommittee level due to our role in communication. I know we've been asked to help facilitate meetings between the department and these different groups. So we wanted to bring that. And so I believe that's on your agenda to discuss later. So I won't make that a subcommittee topic. We also reviewed, a New York Times study over why police traffic stops turn deadly. So we're looking at that and trying to get some feedback on that. And that was kind of why we talked about having a traffic dashboard. I would say the bulk of our meeting, though, was to talk about circling back to one of the mandates that we now have based on the CPAC's perspective is, we talked about each district member reaching out and being involved with their community, their district, going to various meetings. With COVID, we know that's not happening. We know that some are more active than others. So, for those of you that are new, the subcommittee turned back to CPAC and said, hey, we've got it approved that we want to hold educational sessions. So across all of Charleston, rather than district specific, hold Zoom educational meetings. They don't cost anything to have a Zoom meeting and more people can attend. So once we had our mandate to do that, this was our first meeting to discuss how we can go about implementing that and now start to execute when everything we've done before is just strategy and ideas. So we discussed several topics that are very relevant now. The main topics were things like the dashboards. Do we want to have an educational session to review the dashboards and the complaint process? There's been some new updates to the First Amendment procedures for people that are looking to protest or civil disturbances. Some of those rules have changed, and we thought about, should we have an educational session on kind of informing the public how that works and let them hear from law enforcement, have back and forth. And then the last thing we talked about that's pretty relevant is the recent changes to some of the downtown, the King Street, the business district, their nighttime activities, some of the way that's being handled now. So we had a pretty healthy discussion about it. Some are really important topics, but we felt for the first one, we wanted a topic that would draw the largest audience. Who would have the biggest impact? And right now, I think we all agreed that to have a meeting, probably about a 30-minute meeting, a Zoom webinar, where it's really us discussing it and the public can hear us and provide questions through chat. But we decided on the downtown King Street rules and regulations and enforcement. We know every time the city council meets, they're tweaking it. And so it's really important for us to stay on top of that. And really for the public to understand, because there's so many people that are impacted between the businesses, between the people that want to be out late at night, from the different street vendors. There's a lot of confusion over what are the rules and what aren't they. So we've decided that's the first one. We said the panelists should likely be Chief Walker and the Team 9 commander. We think because those two are really, the focal points of that, they would be the best participants from the police department to join us. We're looking at possibly a Wednesday or Thursday evening around 7 o'clock to give people time to get home from work, eat, deal with their children, do whatever they want to do. And we're talking about holding this first one in January. So Captain McFadden's going to work with her team and their availability to determine the best date so that we can get an agenda out and start communicating through all of our media channels to get this communicated and get participants involved with it. Beyond that, we talked about the report on the racial bias audit recommendations. The latest update that we'll receive is that the report should be available to us by the end of the second quarter of 2022. And I believe that's also referenced in the letter that we received from the member of the public today. They're not happy with that, but we're just reporting on this is the answer we're giving. We're not giving an opinion on it. We did, so this was kind of interesting. We did have our first public participant, and a gentleman came to the meeting and expressed some concerns that he didn't necessarily feel that he really didn't have much exposure to what we're doing, but he wanted to emphasize to us up front that he had a concern that we weren't targeting youth when we were doing our discussions and all the different meetings. I don't believe he was aware, but we told him that we do have high school representatives. I know we've talked about maybe trying to get the mayor or others to pursue even college age just to get, kind of a good youth spread. I also gave him, for more understanding one-on-one, that any of us would be available to discuss, at his, convenience. We could discuss some concerns we have one-on-one. And that was pretty much it. It was a good meeting. Our key is we want to execute on these educational sessions so that we can start making it'll be the first public thing that CPAC has really done that's going out there. And I think if we can get some traction on that, it will help us in all the different areas. It will also help communicate to the different members of the public who each of you are as their district representatives, so they can develop a line of communication with you and through your city councilman. So that's our report. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions from anyone?
Sweet.
So now, how much you sweet. So, Councilman Tamburino, do we need to, or did you present that as a motion to have the first session in January?
No,
coming from
at our last CPAC meeting, CPAC voted to turn over the execution of this to the subcommittee. So I don't think I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the execution was turned back over to us. So we're just going to execute on it and communicate as we go through. Did you want us to present it every time and have this as a vote by the council?
Let's see what the rest of the council members
Okay,
think.
sure.
Any input from the other council members?
I think it's a great idea, Chairman Fielding, and I'm going to see you do the same thing in my update. So I think it's a great idea to get the council's permission on these things and then allow the subcommittees to kind of run with it.
Thank you, Councilman Shields. Councilman Ezell?
I think we've been given permission to do this. I think it's redundant to run this back through council, except for an information item.
Thank you,
I would
Councilman
concur.
Ezell.
I would concur with that.
With what Councilman Ezell said, Councilman
That's
Harris? Is
correct.
that what you
That's
concur
correct.
with? Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in? Okay, then since we have two different views, let's have a motion now to say that the subcommittees, the Communication Subcommittee will in fact continue. It's voted unanimously that the Communication Subcommittee be repurposed to execute on actions approved by CPAC related to communications, education, and community outreach efforts. It's not clear in our minutes, though, that the subject matters that are discussed are totally left up to the Communication Subcommittee to handle on their own. If that is the understanding, I'm looking at page 4 of our minutes from the October 7th meeting. On a motion of Mr. Tamburino, CPAC voted unanimously that the Communication Subcommittee be repurposed to execute on actions approved by CPAC related to communications, education, and community outreach efforts. If everyone is in agreement that pretty much gives the Communication Subcommittee authority to determine the subject matters to be presented to the community and set schedule, I I'm fine with that, but I'd like to know what the council believes. Now that I've read you what's in the minutes.
Based on
Councilman
the-
Tamburino?
Yeah, so based on the narrative, when we had led into that motion, that was part of the discussion is that really, because we need a CPAC every 3 months to come back to be able, the time it would take to keep coming back and saying, okay, we want to do this one, where we're trying to get this set as a monthly session that may just be administratively heavy. So the motion was kind of tailored to say, in the past, we were planning and creating strategies. Well, we've done that. And so now we want to get the tools of who goes and implements these things. And so the motion was really about, can we go and implement it now that CPAC's approved it? Just give us the discretion to go run with it. Obviously, CPAC can step in at any time and say, hey, you guys put a halt on that, or we want to have more of an input. But I did see that motion as an execution. But either way, I'll work with anything that y'all have.
So I have a comment. Paul's comment about the timing, without weighing in on should they need approval or not need approval from a practical perspective. What Paul says is very telling. That the timing is unrealistic for subcommittees to come back, because CPAC meets every other month. Subcommittees meet every other month. That would give you a 3-month time or a 2-month time frame just to get an approval and go to the next meeting, to actually have the next conversation. So my perspective is, without weighing in on either of those previous opinions, is that it doesn't matter what those opinions are. It's just impractical.
Thank you, Councilman Palmer. Is there any further action that we need to take on this item? Okay, thank you very much, Councilman Tamburino and others. Policies and procedures, Councilman Harris.
Good afternoon. We met on November 8th. We opened our meeting with a discussion on whether the protocols were for requiring public notice and public opportunity for participation. We asked Captain, and our subcommittee meetings, we asked Captain McFadden to review the posting procedure with the Office of the City Clerk and legal. We approved our minutes of September 8th. Captain Cretella reported that General Order 5, which is the general order that outlines the process for developing and issuing general orders and directives, was posted effective October 11th, 2021, including the language that this council approved at our last meeting, which reads as follows in section 5.5, that the Citizen Police Advisory Council shall provide comments, suggestions, and recommendations to the Chief of Police on department policies, procedures, and programs related to policing and services. CPAC may suggest changes to CPD policy and procedures, practices, and training aimed at improving relationships with the community. But that is pursuant to our discussion about writing CPAC into the actual directives of the department, so it's clear that we have a role in this particular area. Captain Cretella reported on the status of the updating and consolidation of the existing policies. He reported that of the 55 policies scheduled for review in 2021, 25 have been completed, 24 are in process, and 6 have not been assigned. Those 6 unassigned will not be completed in 2021. In addition, he noted that the department plans that selected general orders will be reviewed annually, others on a staggered 3-year period, and a grid indicating what an updated grid will be available, showing which will be reviewed annually and which will be reviewed on a staggered basis. The policy subcommittee had a discussion on priorities of which policies and directives might be reviewed. We were informed that the General Order 1, which has to do with mission and objectives, is under review by the department, and we established that as our number one priority for review. Captain Cortella indicated he will provide the committee with the draft update as soon as it's available. We had hoped that we would have it by this meeting. Other priorities in 2021 are the general orders to do with juvenile operations, which is General Order 40, General Order 57, which has to do with civil disturbances, and 68, civil disorders and mob violence. We also hope to review and comment on the changes that have been made on those. And in 2020, looking forward into 2022, we are prioritizing review of General Order 7, which is community relations, General Order 8, fair and impartial policing, and General Order 45, community policing. And Captain Cortella indicated that all three of these are due for review in 2022. So that would be timely. The Policy Subcommittee also inquired about the status of the Traffic Subcommittee's review of any changes in general orders pertaining to traffic. And as has been reported at prior meetings, several of the general orders are being changed. And it was a comment of our committee that we were hoping that the Traffic Subcommittee would prioritize making comment, reviewing and commenting on those as part of their work. Captain Controller also updated us on the changes to the website regarding the accessibility of the complaint procedures. The procedures are being updated, bilingual capacity, and made more visible, but that was still in process. And as of our meeting, there then was a discussion of the can't even read my own notes here. Support staff for the subcommittees in the absence of the Director of Procedural Justice and Research, being as that position is vacant. Deputy Chief Walker indicated that Captain Patella and Captain McFadden had been assigned that responsibility. He also emphasized the importance role of the CPAC members as communication links to the community and the police department. He also underscored the importance of participation in the Citizen Police Academy as strengthening that link. Captain Cortella requested that the racial bias audit dashboard reported that it had been launched on November 5th, asked for comments, and indicated that the dashboard will be updated quarterly, and we'll hear more about that later in this meeting. Our meeting was adjourned at 5:09.
Councilman Harris, any questions for the Policy and Procedures Committee?
A commercial, Madam Chair, if I could. We would love any of you to join our merry band of the Policy Committee. I know it can be boring to read police speak and legalese, but it is the directives and general orders are the things that govern what the department does in these particular areas in our roles as advisors and links between the community and the police department. Our voice could be helpful in that regard, and I would invite any of you who have not considered joining the Policy Subcommittee to do so.
Thank you very much, Councilman Harris. And actually, that's a very good commercial, because I was going to really share that after Councilman Shields gives his report from Traffic Stop, to encourage once we have our members approved next week's City Council meeting. I hope that the members will be encouraged to send an email to Captain McFadden, to our new chairman and me, just because I'm only holding this position, I believe, till the end of the year. It's through the year. And once we get to the election of chairman and vice chairman, I'll be able to explain that a little better to you from our guidelines that we have from City Council. So please, please, please definitely avail yourself to the subcommittees so that much of this work can be done, and we won't have to wait until the regular CPAC meetings that we have. Thank you, Councilman Harris again. Councilman Shields, traffic stop.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairwoman Fielding. I also want to apologize on video, some issue, but worked out. Either way, you kind of this recruitment traffic stop subcommittee. I know that Harris mentioned the same.
Yeah, hold on 1 minute. Is anybody else hearing him break up? Okay, okay. Councilman Shields, we're not able, your words are, your sentences are being broken up, and we're not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Or can you
hear me better now?
Now, I can hear you better when you said that.
Okay, can you hear me better right now?
Right now, yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, I was trying to say that one of the first thing I was going to bring up was the recruitment of new members to our subcommittee, traffic stop subcommittee. So you kind of read my mind on that one, as well as Councilmember Harris. I'd love to see everybody who's a member of CPAC maybe also try to be a member of one of the subcommittees as well. I think as we go out and try to do more work, as we've asked for permission to do, this is going to be necessary to have the help to do that. As far as updating you guys on our last meeting, it was on November the 18th from 5:30 to 6:30. And we started out by, like I said, talking about how we want to recruit more members to help us out with the subcommittee. And then we just dove in with Captain Bruder as far as discussing the importance of education and the initiative of the traffic unit. And so we kind of rekindled an idea that the subcommittee had been working on in the past, and that is to come up with a message to get to our young drivers in the city. We want to start with high schools, and we would like to get some kind of a video produced that we could get to all the high schools around. Hopefully they'll participate with us. And the idea is just to, number one, sort of, educate the young drivers on how to be safer drivers and, how to conduct themselves while they're driving, but then also, the idea of what to do when you're in an accident, after something's already happened. And so we would ask the full council tonight for permission to develop that program with hopes of getting into some high schools in the spring. So I guess at this point, I would like to make a motion to allow the traffic stop subcommittee to develop a program to reach out to the youth drivers around the city.
Thank you, Councilman Shields. Given what's presented in your report and the fact that it's coming from committee, it needs not a second. We ready for discussion? Any questions? Councilman Ezell?
For the unnumbered time, consider public service announcements that are required by the FCC of all broadcasting systems, television and radio, in producing something that you have mentioned that could be conveyed as a public service announcement to anybody that happens to be watching television at that time. Like I say, I've mentioned this on numerous occasions as part of the Communications Committee, and I applaud your interest in young drivers as well as older drivers to have access to this type of information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Ezell. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to say a couple of things if that's okay. What we were talking about more is having like a traffic safety week. We were going to try to get each of maybe the drama programs or something like that to come up with videos, short videos, because we can see that the youth, they don't like to watch, longer videos. They like short videos, right? So it's going to be a lot of different things. We're going to have the schools compete against each other in developing these videos, obviously under the watchful eye of the police and procedures and that sort of thing. So to make it interesting, so to get the kids really involved, because if we put out, no offense, to the public service announcement, but I don't think they're going to watch them when it comes down to it. But so that's more of the what the program was supposed to entail.
And just as a point of order, thank you, Councilman Davis, but as a point of order, I did not understand the motion to be discussing the actual format for delivery. The motion is create some kind of visual media with traffic safety information to be used in schools. So I was taking what Councilman Ezell said was just additional information and a reminder of what he has said in the past, but that is not discussed in the motion as I understand it. Councilman Ezell?
What you have in mind, hey, go for it, whatever. I mean, I'm not opposing that. I'm just suggesting that we're missing out on a freebie that is 30 seconds max in length, required by the FCC. And if you've got another approach, go for it. I have no opposition to anything that you have in mind. I support it.
Right.
Thank you, Councilman Ezell and Councilman Davis. Any other?
Yeah, I just was gonna
Mr.
kind of
Curry? Oh, hold on a minute. Councilman Shields, I see Mr. Curry has his hand up.
Yeah, just a suggestion. Is there a way for us to work with our SROs who are in the high schools to maybe attempt to connect with driver's ed courses or classes throughout the city of Charleston at our high schools, potentially?
Go for it.
Ooh,
Yeah, that is part of the plan.
I tell you, sounds like you all have a new traffic subcommittee member, right? Yay!
Outstanding.
Yeah, as soon
Yeah,
as City
absolutely.
Council does their vote next week, yay, snatch him right on up. We'll have his contact information sent out to you. Thank you very much, Mr. Curry. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion being approved, please show thumbs up. Okay, I'm looking, yay. Okay, and those opposed, please show thumbs up. Okay, any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. So, Councilman Shields, you've got the thumbs up to proceed. Thank you very, very much for your report. Okay, now we're at Roman numeral 7 on our agenda for tonight, election of chairman and vice chairman for calendar year 2022. And I also put at that same item the selection of our meeting dates for February and April so that our new chairman would be able and vice chairman would be able to proceed accordingly. As a reminder, in our guidelines from City Council that started this Citizens Police Advisory Council, under officers and responsibilities in the document, it says the initial chairperson and one vice chairperson will be appointed by the mayor for a term of 1 year. The positions will be a term of 1 year with the vice chairperson replacing the chairperson in succession. We are now past that point. We're at this section. Thereafter, the chairperson and vice chairperson will be elected by the advisory council members by majority vote. Terms shall begin January 1st of each year. So what I'd like you to do at this point, the floor is now open for nominations for chairman for CPAC And then once the nominations are closed on chairman, then I would like you to please send your vote to Steve Rumelin. And his email address is on the email that you last received from Captain McFadden as well as myself. So that Steve Rumelin, please forward your email to him stating your vote. And we'll do the same process for the vice chairperson as well. So the floor is now open for nominations for, thank you, Steve. And you see Steve has put into the chat his email address. So please take a picture of it, or if you know where it is in your emails, thank you for knowing that, to be able to expeditiously respond. I have enjoyed serving as your chairman, and I thank you so very much for all that you have put into the efforts for CPAC. I have had this title since the beginning of the council, and I wholeheartedly look forward to supporting someone else in the position so that everyone's district can get an opportunity to participate in this very worthwhile effort. And I am available to help out whoever is the successor to ensure that communications are able to continue as they have been. And I thank you so very much for your participation and your willingness to serve, and the acceptance of your appointment by your district rep, your district councilman, or by the mayor and the city council at large. With that said, the floor is now open for nominations. I see Councilman Tamburino, you have your hand up. You have a nomination, sir?
Madam Chair, before you give your farewell speech, I think we're a well-oiled machine, and knowing various people's commitments and having watched the activity level over the past couple of years, you may hate to hear this, and I'll certainly entertain other ideas, but I nominate Twan Fielding to be the chairperson for the next term.
I second it.
I noticed Councilman Ezell didn't even look up at the screen when he said that. Oh, good, Emily. Councilwoman Broome, thank you, Councilman Tamburino. Councilwoman Broome, your hand is up. You have a nomination?
Oh, I was just clapping at the nomination from Paul for you to continue as chairwoman.
Oh, gee, thank you, Emily.
You do a fantastic job.
But that doesn't mean
And
that
so
I
does
can't
Paul.
help. Any other nominate? Thank you, Councilwoman Broome. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Anybody's mic working?
My mic is working and I already sent in my vote. Just in
you,
case
Councilman Palmer.
you're wondering if anybody could hear you.
Yeah, I was wondering if somebody could hear me, because facial expressions were looking like everybody was kind of on, that I was on mute, but thank you very much. Okay, now let me ask this. Is there anyone, seriously, council members, I do not want anyone to feel that I am a coveter of responsibilities. I really do believe it's a wonderful opportunity that we have in serving in the chairman spot and the vice chairman spot. And I'm very, very much so serious. I appreciate it, and I'm humbled by your endorsement of me for another year. But I do want you to know I really would be an excellent support to anyone else in the position. Oh, Paul has his hand up. Councilman Taylor.
In the interest of full disclosure, for the rest of you that don't know, Ms. Fielding, the chair, threatened me last night when I told her I was going to nominate her. I almost went back in and informed the police department to sick the dog on her, because she did threaten me that she was interested in having somebody else take this over. So she did not lobby for my nomination. In fact, I think she's probably going to be mad at me afterwards. So my support still remains. And for me, hearing no other, if there is no other nomination, Madam Chair, I would move that we do it as a voice vote rather than an email vote.
Councilman, thank you, Councilman Tamburino. Councilman Ezell?
I spoke in favor of your continuance, and you're on a roll. I think this organization is just beginning to get on its feet. And for someone else to take over, even though they are probably a current member, there would still be a learning curve to deal with, and you don't have that problem. So let's just stay on the roll.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilman Ezell. So I see that there must be some texting going on behind the scenes, Captain McFadden. So Councilman Tamburino, that was a motion that he made, closing the nominations on the one name. Is there a second to that?
Yep.
Second.
Okay, thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded that we close the nominations on one name for the chairman of CPAC for the year 2022. All those in favor, please signify by thumbs up, saying aye. Okay. All those opposed? Looked like that was unanimous though. Thank you very much. That still means that you have to serve on a subcommittee. So that means I'm going to be really, really checking on you to ensure that you're participating in your subcommittees. Thank you so very much again for the vote of confidence. The floor is now open for a position of vice chairman.
I'd like to make a nomination.
Yes, sir. Councilman
I'd like to
Shields?
nominate, yes, ma'am. I'd like to nominate Paul Tamburino as the vice chair.
Dude, come on,
Thank you,
man.
Councilman
I thought
Shields.
we were friends.
Thank you, Councilman Shields.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Ezell. Any other nominations? Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I nominate Councilman Harris. I think his passion, enthusiasm, and his involvement with all the various subcommittees, and not only that, but his outside involvement, I think brings a lot to the table. So I'm going to nominate Jerry.
Second to the nomination? Oh, it looks like Councilman Harris.
So as to keep the train running. All right, I'm going to decline, Paul.
We didn't. You get one vote.
You started this, so I'm gonna keep it going.
You get one vote. That's fine. You vote yourself down, but
I'm
everybody else will vote
declining.
for you.
I'm declining.
Okay.
Councilman Harris has declined, so no need for a second on the nomination. Any other nominations for vice chairman? Let's see, something's in the chat. Let me look real quick. No, that's just Steve's email address. Okay, is there a motion to close the nominations on the one name?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much. It's been properly moved and seconded that we close the nomination on the one name. All those in favor, please thumbs up.
Up.
Okay. I see. And that's unanimous. Paul, your vote wouldn't even count because it was unanimous. So yeah. Congratulations, Councilman Tamburino.
Guys, with that
And now
said,
let's look at our calendars real quick.
Madam Chair, can I make a comment real quick?
Yes, sir.
So guys, in all seriousness, what we need to do is we do need to spend, I'd like to spend the next year having somebody, really taking on some of these reins so that we can do it, because it is important. I get our continuity, but it's important for the community to see some change too, just because, if they think that we're stagnant or things like that, they're going to look at the top and say, well, if you're not even changing your leadership, you're just checking the box. And so when they see movement among us in different leadership roles, they're going to feel that there's different perspectives being brought to bear. So, I laugh and joke about it, and I agree to do it for another year. That way we get it established, but I'm going to say up front, I won't do it another year because I think we do need somebody else to step up.
So
Exactly.
I also have a comment. I haven't ever been accused of being bashful. So if y'all are doing a good job of leadership, and we're all doing a good job of expressing ourselves, I don't see a problem. That said, I respect what you said, Paul. Your choices are obviously yours to make, but I don't see a problem. As long as everybody's expressing their perspective, and part of the reason that continuity that we have is good is because it's an environment that encourages that. Because not every group that I've been a part of has actually encouraged input. So I think that part of the good continuity that we have here is that we have a group that encourages input. And as long as we're all having our speak and saying our piece and providing our perspectives, I think we're good to go. And by the way, I think both of y'all are doing a great job.
Thank you, Councilman Palmer. Councilman Ezell?
Still claim to be senior member of this committee at age 82. I've been there, done that. If it's happened, I've been there, done that. So Paul, stay in there one more year. We're on a roll. We're just getting our wheels moving. So let's stick with what we've got. 1 year is not, the changeover leadership in a 1 year period is, in my opinion, disaster. Let's stick with it.
Thank you, Councilman Ezell. Councilman Tamburino, I think we have our marching orders. So I have now, yes, sir, I have now pulled up you, and as Councilman Harris said, you started this, Councilman Tamburino. So I'm looking at the calendar for 2022. Our first meeting, if we keep with the date that we usually have meetings, we meet on the first Thursday of the month. And the first Thursday would be February the 3rd. Does that sound good for everyone? Thumbs up? February 3rd? Okay. And then our April meeting would then be on April the 7th. That sound good to everyone too? Okay. And the reason why, again, the reason why we select our meeting dates, try to at least select 2 meetings in advance, is so that everyone can mark it out on their calendars and have it well in advance of any other potential conflicts, meeting conflicts you may have. Thank you so very much. Now we've moved to, oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Tamburino?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I know this may or may not be popular, but as much as I enjoy the flexibility of Zoom, it's very easy just to log onto my computer. I'd like to think that once every blue moon, maybe every other meeting, or on some schedule where we can come together as a group and meet. I just want to throw that out there for opinions. I mean, I do Zoom all day. I need to get out of my house sometimes because all my work is done on Zoom too.
Amen.
Thank you, Councilman Tamburino and Councilman Ezell. Would you?
I totally agree.
Okay, any other feedback, members? Is there anyone who has any discomfort with meeting in person? I can tell you that we have had the Citizens Academy occur in the training room at the police department. It is very comfortable for the meeting purposes. There's sufficient space for us to socially distance if your concern is that. And we do practice proper protocols too, and being safe with one another. And I see Councilwoman Broom asked the question, would we start at 6 o'clock instead of 5:30? That would be another item point. Steve Romelin, is there any problem with us considering changing the time, which would mean we would meet from 6 to 8 instead of 5:30 to 7:30?
That is all up to you. So
Okay,
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing, Madam Chair, is I think it's valuable for, especially for us, those different council members that don't come in contact with the police department, being on site and having the different people coming in and out of the room, you get more accomplished, to me, before and after meetings when you're having that socialization. You're able to have those one-off discussions with each other before you come together and right afterwards. And I really think that, our exposure to the various law enforcement personnel that we only see as a picture on Zoom, it is important for what we do.
So is that a motion to
Yes, ma'am.
return to in-person meeting?
Before we make a motion, I do have one additional comment. I'm not averse to Zoom, but I think a lot of people are very worried about COVID. As I walk around, I see a lot of people that actually look very concerned about COVID. One, two, I'm tired of looking at screens like most people, but there's a convenience to it. The fact that I can stop working at 5:29 and be logged in at 5:30 is not happening when we do meetings in person, right? So a later time might be helpful. And my last comment is one of the other groups that I have to meet with regularly has recently decided to go with a combination meeting, a physical presence and also the ability to log in and project it up on the screen so that people that either couldn't make it there because of a time constraint but can actually make that meeting, because again, there's a less commitment by Zoom, right? So, and I think sometimes we're struggling to get a quorum. So if we're more flexible, we might have more people. Just a thought.
100% support that. And I think, I would say that my first CPAC meeting and the only meeting I ever did in person was the combination. I think there was maybe 2 or 3 of us that were in the room and everybody else was on Zoom. So I'm a big believer that any meeting we do in person, now that we know that we have the capabilities, I think the world should always provide that as an option for people that can't drive, no matter what kind of profession you're in. So I think that's a great point, George.
Thank you, Councilman Palmer and Tamburino. Would you prefer a poll? I'm looking at the clock, as a part of my responsibility and the items that we have still left on the agenda. Would you prefer a Google poll to be sent to you and you respond back to that poll? The question would be, would you prefer hybrid meetings? The second question, would you prefer all in-person meetings? And the third question, would you like to move the start time from 5:30 to 6 o'clock, meaning the meetings would run from 6 to 8 p.m. instead of 5:30 to 7:30 p.m.
If we want to assist you with timing, it sounds like a poll would be a really good idea.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Then let me get Councilman Ezell. Thank you, Councilman Palmer.
I'll make a radical statement. And looking at our agenda and looking at what we've accomplished, yeah, we do fill 2 hours, but I think we should seriously consider a 1-hour in-person meeting. It's going to require some thinking on the part of everybody in attendance and not do what I'm doing right now, and that is running my mouth, but keeping on the agenda, keeping on the task, and getting done what's done.
Thank you, Councilman Ezell. Captain McFadden, would we be able to send a poll between you and Andrea? Would we be able to do a poll to the members, a Google poll?
I'm sure I could figure something out.
Okay. Council members, if you consent, then I will immediately work with Captain McFadden to get a poll out to you. We will need you, however, to please check your emails and get to that poll and respond back so that we can get the information back to you and you will know the status for our February 3rd meeting and any subsequent meetings. Does that work for everyone? Thumbs up? Okay. And please make sure, please don't feel that you have to go with the majority. We want to hear from you. Please speak up if you have any concerns. Okay, we'll proceed with getting out the poll to you in those 3 questions. And again, it will be, do you want to return to in-person, all in-person meetings? The next question is hybrid meetings. And then the next question would be change the meeting time from 5:30 to 7:30 to 6 o'clock to 8 p.m. Okay? Thank you very much. Okay, now we're down to our, any other items to discuss before we get into the updates? Okay, the first one is the racial bias audit mid-year report. And again, we mentioned it earlier. I know when the Communication Subcommittee report was shared by Councilman Tamburino, he mentioned about it, and then our public comment that we received via email from Suzanne Hardy, who is a co-chairman with one of the CAJM subcommittees, mentioned it as well, the concern on the timeliness of it. I did take a look at one of the items. She says the long promised interim audit report that is supposed to connect the progress on the numerous recommendations with actually reducing racial disparities was first promised in late 2019, then in early 2020, then in late 2020, then in early 2021, late 2021, and now we hear it will not come until second quarter 2022. Over 2.5 years past the completion of the audit, no reasons, no insight into why have been forthcoming. So in regards to the update on the racial bias audit report, is Deputy Chief Walker or is Captain Cortella going to provide? I don't see the one of them still on the call. Captain McFadden, did they state who was going to respond to that item?
Yes, ma'am. This is Captain Cortella. Hear me?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I see your phone number. Please forgive me.
I'm sorry. I'm some issues. So in regards to the mid-year audit report, as we stated in the meeting with CPAC, I think it was in early September, is, we talked about doing a mid-year audit report, and we said at the end of the day, it's not the best venue because it's just a document that we're putting out there. So that's why we created the dashboard. And the whole purpose of the dashboard was to create these updates throughout the year that were timeliness, rather than a document coming out, just twice a year, the mid-year, and then the end of the year report. But we are fully committed to the audit. As you guys know, we talk about it throughout our CPAC meetings and through other community events. And just so we're all on the same page, is that the dashboard will be updated throughout the year, as we talked about in our subcommittee meeting. And before the closure of the first quarter in 2022, we will have the annual end of year report published in reference to the audit. And that's our commitment to CPAC, our commitment to CAJM, and our commitment to the community, and also our city council, is that the dashboard will be updated on a regular basis. And then also the end of the first quarter in 2022, we will get the mid-year, we will get the end of the year audit report. And this was conveyed to Ms. Hardy, just to let you know, back in September, I did speak to her about that. And I told her the reasons why. So we do have open communication with CAJM as well. Do you have any questions in reference to that?
Thank you, Captain Cortella. Any questions, members? Councilmember Doris Grant?
Has the community at large been made aware of the dashboard?
So we did a press release back in, I think it was November 8th, that the dashboard was live. We did a social media blitz with it as well. And as we're starting to attend these community meetings now, which are being held in person, we're also talking about the dashboard. We did talk about it in our Citizens Police Advisory Council as well.
Maybe that's one of those situations where we can use the public notice mechanism that was spoken about earlier.
Yes. I was thinking the same thing.
That could be a great
Councilman
bank to get the information out. We would appreciate your assistance with that.
Right. Would we, Councilman Tamburino, I know the first communications opportunity that the committee was going to do was downtown King Street rules, regulations, and enforcement. But I know that there's a wait for that information. You said City Council is still working on that. Is it possible to have the dashboard be presented to?
Yeah, that was pretty heavily favored by, I think we all agreed that was a good one. I think, for me, the more accurate strategy is the social media coordinator. It shouldn't just be a one-time post. It should be a regularly scheduled, I don't, an education session, that thing speaks for itself. So if you're not going to editorialize it, you're not going to have much to say in 30 minutes other than showing a dashboard. People that are going to attend that session are going to want to be able to ask questions about strategies and things like that. If your whole intent is to hold off until the report comes out and just provide the dashboard, I really think your social media needs to start creating a cycle of repeatedly putting that out there. The same thing with the News and Courier and using the different memes, putting it on Instagram, because the people that really want to see it, kind of like the feedback we got from the public, they may not be people that'll watch a commercial on TV or attend a session with us. So I think, this is something that's pretty widespread, but we can do whatever you want.
And we also did 2 media blitzes with it as well. And we are open to any other suggestions you have, because this is a big celebration for us. This is automated. It's our moving in the 21st century. It's one of our pride and joys of having this dashboard. So any way that we can get it out there, and we take your advice, because you are our communicators for us. So we do appreciate that.
Madam Chair, what I can do is let me work with Captain Cretella and Sergeant Wolfson, the new PIO, and I'll work with them, because I think we could do a combination of even getting a statement from you and just having a variety of different communications. And so let's go back to the Post and Courier and maybe get a few sentences from you. It highlights CPAC, but it just gives it a new look in the news cycle.
I do agree. Does everyone agree with Councilman Tamburino's suggestion? Want to proceed with that? Okay.
I'll reach out to them and I'll copy. Those of you that are on the Communication Subcommittee, I'm going to copy you on it, because, various members, I'm going to want you involved as well.
And remember what Councilman Ezell said too about the public service announcements. Maybe that can continue to run. The utilization of multiple forms of communication, I think, will give us far more bang for the buck, as opposed to just doing it one way. And I think that should be able to be helpful.
Yeah, what I'm going to try to do is have a working session with her outside. Just have a closer working session, and I'll include a couple of these folks. So it's not our formal meeting. This is more of a working session, so that we can flush out a lot of this and give our ideas. And Hack, you'll be there for your commercial, because it's a good idea.
Yeah, and Becca and Moyu, if you don't mind, please touch base with Councilman Tamburino. The two of you would touch base with Paul to see if what ways would be beneficial for the high school community too.
Amen.
Okay.
And
so please,
just to touch base, I'm sorry, real quick, is that we'll be presenting this to the Public Safety Committee on Monday. It will be kind of a general synopsis of everything that CPAC has heard for the last 4 or 5 months. So Ms. Twan, I will send you the email link to the Public Safety Committee when I get it. And if you want to disseminate that to CPAC, just since they've been a part of this, and that's another way that we can get that out there as well.
Perfect. I will definitely send it out as soon as you send it to me. Thank you. Any other questions about the racial bias audit mid-year report? Okay, next item is Charleston City Police Department's response to policy recommendations update. I think when Councilman Harris gave a report from the Policy and Procedures Committee, the recommendations from the Policy Committee were accepted into the policies? Is that correct?
Yeah, the language that we talked about as it relates to the general directive has been incorporated in section 5.5. And as indicated, Captain Cretella indicated that it was posted and went live October 11th, I believe.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you very much. Any other questions about those general orders? And again, after meeting, if you have any questions about anything, please feel free to reach out to me or to Paul Tamburino, or to any of the subcommittee chairman for the subcommittees. Councilman Harris, Jerry?
Yeah, I just want to ask Captain Cretella the status of the mission and objective general order that you indicated you guys were reworking.
Yes, sir. So we made great headway on that. Unfortunately, I had some medical issues between me and my whole family for the last 3 weeks. So we had to hit a pause button on that. I'm finally getting back. My family's mending their way back. But once we're back to full strength and I can get things in order, we're still fully committed to that. And hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we will get that taken care of. But I was out of play pretty much for the last 3 weeks due to some medical issues.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Blessings to you for improved health with you and your family, Captain Cotella.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the policy recommendations? The next item is the 2020 Office of Internal Affairs report. The reason why this was placed on the agenda is because during the meeting, during our October meeting, I actually placed, let's see, Councilwoman Grant, and I'm not a host, so I can't mute lines. Okay, thank you. During the October 7th meeting, Captain Cotella sent me the Office of Internal Affairs report, and I emailed it out to all the council members. I didn't know if anyone had any questions regarding the report, so I wanted to make certain that it was on the agenda to give you an opportunity to get your questions answered at this time. Okay, seeing none, then we'll proceed to the May 30th, 31st incident response.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay,
might.
Councilman Harris.
Yeah, on page 24 of the report, it has a description of the demographics by race and gender and by age of the citizens impacted by use of force. And there is a concern that I have reflected here of the high percentage of African American in the 18 to 29 and the 30 to 39 categories, and just overall in terms of the use of force. I think the report points out that about 60% of the incidents involve Black people. It points out, it seems to me, the issue of a disparity in use of force, particularly in the young youth age. And I was wondering how the department, while the report says that none of the analysis of the use of force sees a violation or discrepancy with policy, to what degree, and then this, I think this is part of the Cajun conundrum, okay, if you will, to what degree does the department, how does the department seek to address the disparity, all right, without impacting negatively public safety, and to what degree, and how is that question being raised and addressed, and where is it being talked about? Because this data presents a situation where it's clear racial disparity. The racial bias audit talked about improved professionalism and that, like, with the notion that it would perhaps reduce these disparities. But we have an example from 2019 to 2020 where there's increase, and just question about how the department is processing that data, even though it's not a violation of existing policy and procedure.
So really, in a nutshell, your question is, how is the disparity going to be addressed?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and if this report is not to be used as something to beat up on the department, right?
Correct. Understand. I was just trying to summarize to get to what your specific question actually is. And so your question is, how will the disparities be addressed?
Right.
Which
in
is
this
in this particular case.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually a very good question. And what we do here at the Charleston City Police Department is anytime there's a use of force that is used, it goes through minimally the officer supervisor, their lieutenant, and possibly up to their captain. And then also the Office of Internal Affairs touches every single use of force that comes through. So a use of force could either get a 3-layer or 4-layer review. And I can't give you the answer on the quote disparity in there, but we are making sure that every time force is used, that it's within our policy. And we are looking at, is it an educational moment where if we are, if it's just going hands-on, if that's the majority of it, well, why are we going hands-on? Are people in the community not listening when, we give simple verbal commands? And if that's the case, then we need to get into the schools and just talk about police interaction, which I believe the Communications Committee talked about a while ago. And I think we're slowly getting to where we are. But, every use of force that we use does go through a 3 to 4 layer review just to make sure that it is within policy, and that if there is an issue with the use of force, it is addressed immediately. And the Charleston Police Department does take full ownership of that, and we have done that in the past.
So then the answer to the question really is you're not certain yet where it's going to get addressed. Did I hear correctly? Am I misstating?
I guess the answer is, so on paper, it shows that there is a disparity where force is being used, but it is within policy and procedure. And we are working on continued training through fair and impartial policing, through cultural diversity training with our officers, and also training within the schools that we are trying to get into. And that would be the relationships that are being built between our officers within the schools and then also outside the schools as well with their community action teams. And then pretty much anytime that we come in contact with citizens.
Okay. And is this also one of the foci for Captain Bruder, where he started with the cards, where you're keeping a record of more close account of the stops?
So the cards that Captain Bruder was speaking of is that's anytime we come in contact with a citizen. Every time we do a use of force, everything is documented. So there are 2 different ways there. The use of force data system that we use isn't correlated with the FI cards. They don't essentially talk to each other. So we are tracking who we're coming in contact with through the FI cards. But that's not tracked basically through the use of force software system that we use. If that makes any sense.
Captain Patel, I'm going to jump in just for a second, Aaron. Yes, this is where all these things and the fact that they don't talk to each other starts to be highlighted. We can't just look at the end result, or in the worst case where use of force is utilized, which is very minimal in the overall situation there. That's a very small percentage of our total contacts with people. We've got to have our data and use it in a way, and we got to start with just getting our data, right? That's what the FCC cards you were talking about, to see where these engagements happen. Where's the first point in the contact with police where we can start to address these things and see where we can do that education piece. And that's where all this kind of comes together. The FCCs do play a role in this. You don't see an FCC and then go to use of force, but where are these encounters happening? We talked about this at great length in the traffic stop subcommittee. Where can we reduce those things in the beginning? And that's really where we've got to find out. And y'all have heard me say this a whole bunch of times. Police are really good at incidents. We can really go to an incident, and that's what Tony was talking about with they review every incident. But how do we look at the big picture, the systemic type things, and drill down into that? And until we get our systems in place where we can actually see these things and drill down, and we've come a long way in 2021. We didn't even have that stuff. If you'll remember, the same time a year ago, we were talking about what to do when we actually put FCCs in place, and we actually made the work twice as hard for the officers just so we could get that stuff. So we're getting there. We've got to hone in on where the actual problem is. We can see the end picture of the disparity in that report. But we got to hone in to see where the actual problem is, so we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater trying to fix everything. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you, Captain Bruder, and thank you, Captain Patella. Councilman Tamburino, you had your hand up.
I think when we hear from the frustration from the public and everybody else, I'm starting to understand a little bit better. And I think what's happening is there's groups that their expectation is that the police department proactively looks at every incident and evaluates it as a racial, how it applies to racial impact. The department, on the other hand, is saying, well, we're addressing it by making sure that we have racially, immaterial policies and procedures, and that's how we're going to address it. And so what we're doing is we're seeing people looking in the middle going, where are we gonna get the person in the police department that looks at this from the view of racial bias? And I think, what Captain Cretella and Captain Bruder are both saying is, without the data, which has to be in place, it's hard to evaluate those. And I think that's the education where we can come in and say, listen, guys, we're hearing all different sides, and we understand that the answer is really in the middle. That without the data, they can't report on it. They're trying to create policies and procedures in the meantime. Then when they get both of those in place, then they can turn around and have somebody who views it from the perspective of racial bias and look at it through that lens. And I mean, that's just a perspective I'm getting.
Thank you, Councilman Tamburino. Any other comments regarding disparities? It's definitely something else that we need to make sure we keep on the high on the visibility screen, Councilman Harris. So, Captain Cretella, once you get a chance to get your bearings back, we appreciate you getting on tonight's meeting. Once you get a chance to get your bearings back, let's make sure we circle back on that item, and hopefully something can be determined before our February meeting, maybe discussed at the next policy and procedure meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Community engagement. Any additional any highlights on anything that the police department is going to be doing for the holidays, and they want the community to make sure they pay attention and come by to see?
Yeah, sure. First, I wanted to, the last CPAC meeting, I think when I was talking about our new problem-oriented policing module and how we document just some of the things we encounter, some of the plans we have in place or anything like that. I know Jerry had asked for some type of presentation. Still working on that with our analysts on how we can capture that data. It's not that it's hard to do, it's that they're so busy. So to pull it from that record system. But we're still working on that, and then we'll move it into a good presentation format for you. Right now, a lot of my officers are attending our community meetings, and they're talking about vehicle break-ins, which are always a hot topic, package deliveries, and securing, your residents when you're out of town for the holidays. And obviously, with our new social media, Brianna, she's been doing a great job, and we're going to start. Well, she's already been pushing out a lot of that. We also had, we've done so many programs since the last meeting. I'm not going to rehash everything. Obviously, we went through Halloween, and we had a lot going on with that. And then obviously with the upcoming holidays, we do have one of our sergeants, Sergeant Ingalls, you guys all know well. He's developed a good relationship with CFC, and he's been actually in their classroom with some of their college kids and had kind of some roundtable discussions about the judicial system, policing, and laws with them. So we hope to keep that relationship moving with them. Some of our main projects, obviously tonight, we actually have a lot going on. So we are our huge mentor project with Low Country Youth Services Community Pod, that's been on all of our social media, that actually kicked off tonight at 5. So they're over there now in our gathering center in the community, working with Rayshawn and his group, and then the youth that have signed up. And so that's a year-long project that we've been discussing, and Lens helped us fund some of it. And so that's a good way for us the police to kind of start bridging the gap with some youth over there. And they are all from that area. So So we're looking to make a lot of strides in that area with this youth project and bring in some more kids as we go along. And tonight is Good Night Lights is starting. We advertise that on social media as well. That's 4 Thursdays in a row going into Christmas. Sergeant Ingalls created the entire program and ops plan. He's done a great job with that, with other agencies. And we basically go to MUSC Sean Jenkins, and we have police all over the place in designated zones, police from many agencies, EMS, fire, everyone participating, and we, set up the lights and we do that for them. And then they have little flashlights that we give them that they can hit their lights back out to us. And then we have gifts and stuff for them as well that we give. So that started tonight. And then we also have Santa's Escort ride. That's been on our social media. We're doing a huge press release. And then there's a link, Amazon link, and I can email that to the group that we just made that link this week. You can easily purchase the gift you want to donate, and it has all the gifts for you. And then it just ship it to L'Aquila Smalls. The address will be hidden, but just ship it to L'Aquila Smalls. It comes straight here to headquarters. And then that is on the 15th, where Officer TJ O'Leary, you guys met him last night. He's a K-9 officer. And he's also a motor officer, and he's a chameleon of many different things. He's also Santa Claus, him, and then Sansari Miller, who works here. She's Mrs. Claus. So we go and deliver those gifts to Ronald McDonald's house in Fisher House on December 15th. So that's always a big, and that's Chief and his wife. They started that in Maryland and brought that down here every year.
Nice.
So, let's see. That's pretty much all I have. I'm not going to go through all the events we do. A lot of food drives, and we're starting to hand out some Narcan and some materials for assistance with addiction at some of these food drives that we do, like our pharmacy program we do on a weekly basis. So we're making some headway there as well. And if before anyone has anything else, once I'm done with my portion right here, Paul told me I could easily send out a poll on here. So I created it, and I'll send it out whenever we're done. But if anyone has any comments or questions for me, feel free to.
I think, let me just throw in here. So Captain McFadden mentioned Lens, and some of y'all know that in the past few months, I've helped found a law enforcement foundation that really encourages the police department, and we provide support for the police department to be involved in even more community events that take funding. So Christy, I think we've got Shop with a Cop coming up too.
Yes, so that's Saturday.
Yep,
I'll be there. Yep.
For the general public, I know some of the downtown council members are fighting right now because they just received 14 new police bikes so that we can, have more police bike patrols, which gets them out of the police car and closer to the community, which has been a huge demand. So they got a grant for 6 of those, and Lens is going to provide 8 of those. These aren't Huffy bikes from Walmart. I actually donated one before I knew the cost. I was like, oh crap, that's a lot of money. So they're doing it. If you're not following, what I would tell y'all as a commercial, if you're not following the police department on social media, please do it. Because if you know all the different things they're doing in the community outside of just the traffic stops and things like that we have to stay laser focused on, they spend an inordinate amount of time and resources. I'm amazed at how many directions they're pulled in. Everybody's calling them. I think another one that she just, Captain McFadden took on last week, she got voluntold, is reading to children, having law enforcement officers helping read to children. That's not a traditional role you would think these police officers do. And keep in mind, they're not doing it always on the clock. A lot of this is their volunteer time. They have pickup basketball leagues. These things that they're doing are great. And the more we know about that, it helps us educate across the board. So when they do something wrong, yes, when you're wrong, you're wrong. And we're going to be right there. But when you're right, you're right. And so we want to make sure that we're giving the public an education on the mixture of what community involvement is. Community involvement is not just our neighborhood meetings. Community involvement is that proactive interaction with these youngsters that gives them the right foundation starting now to develop that line of communication with the police. And I think that's huge.
Thank you, Councilman Tamburino. Mr. Curry has his hand up, and then Councilman Harris has his hand up.
Good evening again, y'all. And Ms. McFadden, it's good to see you again. I was actually on a call with them about a month ago with Lynn's and my community keeper mentor group and a host of other people where they were trying to get basketball leagues involved. I've actually had a lot of interaction with the community outreach team, and they're very, very good. But I will say this much, they don't get to do just community policing and networking and things like that. They're often really called to do funerals and a lot of other things. And I think that, to your point, Councilman Tamburino, that they do a lot, but that team doesn't get an opportunity just to focus on the community like they should. And I think that I've been with Sergeant Ingalls, being Sergeant Staggers, have worked almost together for 5 years now. And one of the biggest concerns I have with them is that they're often pulled off of, duties and opportunities to interact with kids and community to do policing. And so if we can support them better and get them more people in that team, I know that's a huge ask, and I know budgets and things like that are important for this, but we want more community interaction. That team needs to grow and not just be for special events. They need to have a full-time people who can just focus on that 24/7, because the community needs them, and the kids that we want to get to aren't necessarily in schools. I mean, if they're in schools, then we got an opportunity to work with them, but the people that we're trying to get to are not the traditional citizens who are doing the right thing or in the right places. So if we can get our community action team for CPT more help and more budget and more support, I think that we can actually accomplish some of the things that you're talking about with the youngsters. And I worked on the east side of Charleston. I've been in West Ashley. I've been in downtown to actually help start the Pickup and Patrol basketball clinic. I was the first one to help Sergeant Ingalls map that out. And I think that basketball is great, but there's also other activities that kids are involved in, and kids are not always athletic. They're gamers. So I think we need to think about that too as well moving forward. But getting them their support that they really need to be effective is probably something I would really recommend that we look at as well.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Curry. Any other comments to add to Captain McFadden's report? And please always remember, we as representatives from our various areas in the city of Charleston do have the responsibility to go back and keep our community areas informed and share those same concerns that Mr. Curry just shared with us and Councilman Tamburino shared with us, so that our council members will recognize the concern. Without the police having the availability to be able to participate in informing the community, then the community is going to be a little lax in being able to receive the appropriate communications to improve relationships between the police department and the community. Any other information, Captain McFadden, you'd like to share?
No, and I appreciate all the good supportive comments. I'm just going to launch this poll if everyone can submit. It's anonymous. I made sure it's anonymous, and I think I'm the only one who sees it anyways, but
now there are a few, Captain McFadden, a few members had to separate from the call.
Okay.
A couple, I think, yes. So we may have to email it to everyone.
I'll
and
launch
let
it
them
and then,
send.
Yeah, I'll count the responses and see, and then we'll just go from there. And then any other follow-up questions, we can just discuss afterwards.
Okay. And Steve Rumelin, is it okay for the 3 members who are pending city council approval, may they participate in this untitled poll? Because it will affect their schedules as well. Steve Romelin, are you still there? Uh-oh, I think we may have lost.
Madam Chair, from my perspective, I think this is your decision to make. So you're gathering information from us, and you dictate the agenda and you dictate the time to us. We're just a peanut gallery offering feedback.
Well, I just want to make certain that we don't lose, that, we're inclusive. I strive to be very inclusive with our actions. So then I'm asking, with that in mind then, and if everyone agrees, Mr. Curry, Mr. Bryant, and I still don't think Marisol, Ms. Bailey joined us, but if you would please participate in the poll that you should see on the screen, we'd appreciate it.
Can you all hear me now?
Yeah, oh, now I can, yes.
I saw the poll and I couldn't figure out how to get off of mute. So, but I'm here and I don't see any problem with that.
Oh,
So
very good. Thank you.
The more
Thank you.
input, probably the better. So
I think even having the officers' input, anybody who's on this call who normally attends, they're going to be impacted by our decision too.
I've participated. I checked off already.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Bryan. I appreciate that. And the officers who are normally participating in our meetings. So Captain Bruder and Captain Cortella, Deputy Chief Thompson, Lieutenant Taylor, Captain McFadden, please make sure that you all participate as well. Oh, Captain McFadden, you'll have to add yours because I think when you start the poll, the system won't allow you to vote. So you'll have to add yours.
Go with the majority. It's okay.
And if you would please contact Councilwoman Grant, she did send me a text that she was going to have to separate for another meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And our final item, before talking about topics for future agendas and reminders, the Citizens Academy graduation. There are a number of us who have had the pleasure of participating in the Citizens Academy. Captain McFadden and chief staff there have done an awesome job in setting up sessions to really inform us, educate us on what the police department actually experiences on a day-to-day basis. And I tell you, you would just be overwhelmed with the length of time that we're getting exposed to the information and recognizing that they're spending their daily lives participating in all of these things at any given moment. So I just wanted to do a shout out to Captain McFadden, Chief Reynolds, Deputy Chief Walker, and all of the various participants, the officers who have participated in making us a better informed community member. The graduation ceremony is next week. And if you are interested in participating and attending, please reach out to Captain McFadden to let her know. In addition, I do not know when the next session will be, but please, if you didn't get a chance to participate this time, it's well worth the time. It really is well worth the time. So please let Captain McFadden know that you're interested and apply to get your name on the list. You will not want to miss the opportunity. We did some hands-on things and all. So it wasn't just sitting in a classroom and learning. It was also participating in actual applications, practical applications of the information being taught. So Captain McFadden, again, thank you so very much. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was partnered with Jerry on some of these simulations. And I can tell all of you, if he's ever on a ride along and your car is pulled over, no sudden movements, because the man's going to tase you 3 times and his gun's out of that holster with you saying hello.
And with that said, please, everyone, let us make sure that we speak into the atmosphere, Jerry, to keep his day job and not change his occupation.
Quick trigger.
I'm a peacekeeper. Thank you very much. From my perspective,
Jerry, you had very good officer presence. Very good.
He shot that taser twice in 2 seconds.
Goodness. Now, topics for future agenda, any burning topics that you want us to make certain that we have on the agenda for next time?
Madam Chair, I
Yes,
wouldn't
sir.
say it's burning, but I would note that the department's 2025 strategic plan is supposed to be updated annually. I imagine somewhere in all the stuff that they're doing, data collection and reporting and stuff, that is being updated, but particularly because we're interested in the community policing, community engagement components. Just based on what I'm hearing from the new council members and the resources that are there, I think we can be an asset in strengthening that document and then putting that out in the community as an example of how how policing is changing, all right, and to address some of the issues that the community has. So I would ask that we have an update on the plan.
Strategic plan. Got it. Thank you.
Madam
And
Chair,
of
do you think
course,
it would-
just so you all will know, we will have the subcommittee reports listed on the agenda for February, recognizing that the subcommittees will be meeting before the February meeting. And so please make certain, I will be checking to make sure that all of our members have added themselves to one of the subcommittees. And again, the chairman for communications is Paul Tamburino. Policies and procedures is Jerry Jerome Harris, and traffic stop is Camden Shields. Councilman Tamburino?
With that said, can I do my editorial on our subcommittees and be kind of forceful about it?
Sure, we're at 7:23.
Oh, I'm going to be done
We've
by
got a few minutes.
I'll go quick. Listen, guys, if you're a member of this advisory, you need to belong to one of the subcommittees and pick one that's relevant to you, one that you're passionate about. And if you're not passionate about one, it's because you haven't attended one. So, that's our role. That's where we actually get the work done. These general CPAC meetings, they're like business meetings. We're giving recaps of the work that's done between the meetings. These subcommittees are where we really need your help because, as you've heard from the various reports, we're now moving beyond strategy into the execution. And that requires us to become worker bees. And doing strategy with one or two people, that's not really hard to do. But when we're trying to do the logistics of executing on some of these and assigning out subtasks, we need all the help we can get. And it is easy to become resentful when you look on all these meetings and you go, wait a minute, it's the same 4 or 5 people doing everything. We do notice. So, please be passionate about it. Please be involved. And, we know, I don't think there's, I work for a living too. I got a family, all these things that we do, I get it, but we all made a conscientious and educated decision to say we want to be involved. Well, being involved is being involved. And so, I'm going to tell you, just voted for me for another year. That's my agenda, is to make sure that we're all involved.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Any other items you'd like to see on the agenda? And you heard the reminders for ensuring that you join up with the subcommittee. And don't worry, if I check the subcommittee chairman and you have not, I will have your accurate telephone numbers here very shortly. Thanks to Steve Rumelin. And we'll make sure that I reach out to you to find out, just in case you're just a bit shy and not quite sure which subcommittee. I can certainly help you in that decision process. Okay, well, with that stated, clock on the wall says 7:25. Thank you so very much for your time, your commitment, and your dedication to the Citizens Police Advisory Council. Looking forward to all of us having a very celebratory holiday season, and that everyone stays safe. Please remember to ensure that if you miss the poll, that you get your results into Captain McFadden, and so we can respond back to you to let you know the results of that here in short order. If there's no other discussion, no other items for discussion, I'm looking if there aren't any. Again, I want to thank Mr. Curry and Mr. Bryan for taking the time to join us tonight, even though you have not been appointed, yet haven't been approved by City Council. It lets us know that you really, really are excited and looking forward to participating. So thank you so very much for that added time commitment here tonight. Thank you so very much, everyone, and have a happy holiday. We'll see you in January, if not before. Take care, everybody.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you.